Hey, puke.
And go.
All right, folks, pull out the tinfoil, the koozies, and your spork. We're about to go deep into stuff hitting the fan.
This right here has the ability with a 30 caliber clip to disperse with 30 bullets within half a second.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber.
You're listening to your weekly dose of BS, Ballistically Speaking. The Ballistically Speaking Podcast.
That's good music. Who picked that music?
It is.
That was, yeah.
Somebody with
some
a good
dude
ear.
on the internet.
Some
like
dude on the internet.
All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. As usual, we're brought to you by a bunch of good people. One of them being Odell Engineering. The geniuses behind the Canuck line of firearms, Odell Engineering is your premium importer and distributor of some of Canada's top brand of firearms, including Bergera, Rock Island Armory, Mission First Tactical, Hyperfire, and of course, the Made for Canada Canuck firearms. Find their products and supporting dealer at www.odellengineeringltd.com, on Facebook at Odell Engineering Limited, or walk into your local gun store and tell them Phil sent you.
That's the best option.
That is.
Yeah.
Always best.
We're also brought to you by Ribstone Gunsmithing. From stock refinishing and modifications to general repairs and rust bluing on rifles, shotguns, and pistols, contact Oscar Long at ribstonegunsmithing.ca in Sarre, Alberta. Ribstone Gunsmithing, craftsmanship done right.
Is it
Before
still
your
the Wizard
eyes.
of Czar?
Is that
Yeah,
Czar or Tsar?
It's Czar.
Like Czar, like as in like the Tsar and Tsarina of Russia?
It's spelt a little different, but I'm going to say that it's like that. Yeah.
Sure. Maybe I misspelled it when I put it in there.
Maybe you did, but probably not.
All right. We're also brought to you, as always, by EM Precision Rifles in Leduc, Alberta, building Canada's finest precision rifles. Commission a build today at emprifles.ca.
And Bolt Action Coffee, bringing specialty coffee to the precision shooting world. Order coffee and merchandise at boltactioncoffee.com.
Call sign 66. Welcome to the Brotherhood. Book a course with them now at callsign66.ca.
And Apex Optics. When you buy Apex, precision comes standard. Find them at apexoptics.co and grab yourself a Rival 4-32 rifle scope and get on the mailing list for more exciting products coming soon.
That kind of tripped you up a little bit, didn't it?
Was that saying grab yourself a rival? Because man, I'm down. Like I got a fucking list I can start on.
It's no.
That kind of rival, Mark.
Apex rival. Apex rival.
Nah. Well, look at we got some people with us already.
Hello,
We got
people.
Scott, Jens, and Doug at least.
Well, they're good people to have on board.
Yeah, they're okay. They're okay.
All right. Well, what are we doing today?
Well, we're talking about what if shit hits the fan, and what if shit doesn't hit the fan, and what if shit sort of hits the fan,
Well,
and what's worth prepping for, and what's not worth prepping for, and what's crazy and tinfoily, and what's just smart.
And is shit already hitting the fan?
well,
That's
Depends on your
definitely a matter
scale.
of opinion. Yeah.
yeah.
Oscar says some of us aren't people. I don't know why he said that though.
Well, Oscar is a different cat.
Something I'm sure. Clearly, we said something within the last 2 minutes, but I can't remember what it was.
Well, I said, like we had a Doug Jens and Scotty on, and I said, well, they're good people to have on.
Oh,
Maybe Oscar, being as hypersensitive as he is, got a little bit upset with us.
I'm not a people.
Yeah.
I am a meat popsicle.
Yeah.
Man,
Aren't we
I
all?
swear I have to make at least one reference to The Fifth Element every time I'm on this podcast.
What
It's
was
like, it's like a rule.
what was the one you made last time?
I brought out the Zerg gun that everybody was like wah wah
yeah.
over. Yeah.
My eyes still
right.
hurt from rolling back so far.
My favorite comment out of everything was like, that looks like something I would have drew in grade 6. I was like, yeah, that's why it's awesome.
JR is first of all, hey JR, how's it going? Second of all, hola. Second of all, actually, before we even get to his question, I just saw on Facebook, JR, that you're going to jump out of an airplane soon. That sounds exciting. So that's cool. Also, he wants to know.
Parachute.
That's a prerequisite, yeah. He wants to know, did we get forced to follow the Depp Heard shit show?
No, we're talking about shit shows that actually matter.
Yeah, that's exactly what my thought was. I followed a couple of things on it. I've listened to maybe half of an episode of Ian Runkles when he was talking about it, and I'm just like, man, like I know I should care about this because it's part of the zeitgeist right now, but I just don't fucking care. Like,
God,
they both seem like absolute. They both seem exactly like the type of person why the phrase "never meet your heroes" was created for.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I've been watching the Aussie Man reviews of it, and those are freaking priceless. Like he's done 7 or 8 episodes of them, and oh man, when he starts tearing into them, it is freaking hilarious.
I watched a half of one, and it's kind of funny. I'm finding Aussie Man hard to watch sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes his political bend is a little.
Yeah, he turns into a little bit of a woke wiener every once in a while.
Yeah, that's for
true.
Oh,
really?
True. Oh, yeah.
JR says Aussie Man rocks, and I'm like, no, fuck him. I'm cutting him down.
But if you ever watch the one where it's that girl who gets the 10 at the Olympics in the gymnastics, like I still piss myself laughing every time, man. Spready to the gods.
Yeah, triple flip spready. Yeah, he started that with. Oh man, the pole dancer's name, I think it was like Mandy Sparkles or something like that.
Oh yeah.
His commentary on her pole dancing is pretty funny.
That's epic.
Yeah. Anyway,
was it sport pole dancing?
Yeah,
there is.
Like it's competitive pole dancing. Yeah.
You're shitting me.
No, I'm dead serious, man.
Oh, I didn't know.
You didn't know that was
existed.
a thing? How do you not have TSN?
I don't.
It's okay. It's not on TSN anyway. I have no idea where you actually watch it, but the only place I am aware
there's these buildings called gentlemen's clubs. That's where you can watch all the competitive.
Well, since I'm not a gentleman,
is that where they do it? Is at strip clubs?
No idea, dude.
Because I figured they'd be like, here, let's legitimize pole dancing. It's a competitive sport now.
God. Yeah, but every time there's a fan where the girls fall off, I fucking laugh.
So speaking of the demise of humanity,
yeah,
we're
staring down the barrel of it right now.
I think down the barrel of a stripper's gun.
Yep.
I think the best way to do this, Curt, is if you lead us through the topics.
Oh my God!
And we'll just give our we'll give our 2 cents on every topic.
Well,
and as we do this, guys, we want to hear from you guys too. We want to know what your thoughts are on everything. And if we have a fucked up opinion, we want you to tell us so that we can tell you to go to hell. You can watch it in pole land. Come on, Doug. Come on, Doug. Low hanging fruit.
Oof, that was a dad joke.
That was a granddad joke.
That was a granddad joke.
Oh, good old Doug. Well, listen, I just kind of off the top of my head sort of puked a whole bunch of things out on paper, and I don't know, stuff that goes through my head fairly regularly. All the deficiencies I have with my general preparedness. Mm-hmm. But I guess we'll just take the list top to bottom.
Let's do it. Yeah.
So first of all, I just kind of led off with what now?
I'm sorry. Oscar says wrong poll if you see low hanging fruit. That's not funny, Oscar.
This is a family friendly show, Oscar.
Yeah, it's not, sir. But it's also not that.
Oh my my God. I don't know if I'm going to
So-
recover from that one.
Carrying on.
All right. So I started out with the rule of threes. And I mean, this applies to so many bloody things, right?
Yeah.
So the idea here that I had was that you can last 3 minutes without air.
Yeah.
You can last 3 hours, generally speaking, without shelter in poor conditions, of course.
Yeah.
You can last 3 days without water, and you can go 3 weeks without food. Beyond that, you're kind of hooped. You got to have a plan.
I think you need to have a plan before those threes each come up, though, because if
Well,
you wait
that's
3
kinda what I
minutes
was
to
implying.
get air, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus. I better start doing something here.
No, it's
Well,
only 2 minutes and 56 seconds left.
That's what we're like at the beginning of every show.
Well,
Fuck, what were we going to do tonight?
So
something we should probably mention. Sorry, Mark, I'm cutting you off.
No, go ahead.
I'll let you go in a second. So, like, if you at 3 minutes, that we're talking like brain cells are starting to die.
Yes. Yeah.
You're probably going to pass out before 3 minutes, 3 minutes. And at 3 hours, we're talking about like you're feeling that nice embrace and passing off into the la la land.
3 hours of exposure, you mean?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay.
What did I
Yeah,
say?
okay.
I meant to say exposure.
You just said 3 hours. So
Okay, yeah.
3 hours without air there's a good chance that you'll be fully embraced. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'm
at
pretty
3
sure-
weeks without food, you're not standing up for the last week and a half at
No.
least. Probably more than that.
Yeah.
But anyway, what were you
Well,
gonna
I was
say,
just
Mark?
going to say with some of these, like, I always find the rules of three something that people kind of think about, and I love that you actually included shelter in there, because I actually use the rule of three when I'm talking about my real world job, because people don't realize how important having good shelter is. Like, it's more important
Well, we
for
take
you
it
to
for
actually
granted.
be able, and it's more important for you to be able to shelter yourself from the elements in a quote unquote survival situation than even getting fire or water together. Most people are like, oh, I gotta, it's like, what would you do if you're on a desert island? Like, oh, I'd build a fire or try to do that. Nah, man, you need to like get the hell out of the wind, and you need to get warm. So the shelter piece, I think, is interesting, and that's why like I'm quite the preparedness nerd, and you can call me a prepper if you want. I'm totally okay with that term. That's why, like, you should have a bivy, man, like one of those portable bivvies in all of your emergency kits. Like, I don't think people realize how important getting the hell out of the wind and sheltering yourself actually is.
Yeah, good points for sure.
Yeah.
And to that point, at some point today, we should talk about priorities, and I'm sure that we will, because essentially what you were talking about is just making the wrong priorities, right? So I'll leave that for now, but
Sure.
I'm sure it'll come up further along in the discussion.
So, like, I mean, we can expand on pretty much every bloody point that I've included here.
Yeah.
You can go so deep with every one of these. Like, I'm looking at our second set of points here: general safety and awareness. And I just had in there safety at home, safety at work or school, safety in public, and general medical emergencies. It's like, I always think, and I'll bet you I think daily, especially when I'm away. What's Nancy doing at home? When she's getting out in the car, is she having a look around before she even gets out? Is she keeping her damn head up while she's reaching into the back to get her pack, reaching into the trunk to get groceries or whatever? Does she look down the street both ways to see what's, if anybody's lurking around or whatever? It honestly scares me a little bit, because you never can tell who's around. And Nancy's like so many other people, just happy to be alive. Life is good, and nothing's ever happened to me, so it's not likely to happen. And we all do that.
Yeah, the normalcy bias kicks in.
Yeah, for sure. So,
and every single person who's ever had a major emergency that led to, casualty or worse, they thought the exact same thing until it happened.
Yeah, exactly right.
Well, and you know, the thing is with this sort of thing, especially like you know, the situational awareness that you're talking about, this is something people can learn to do, you know, and I think that's an important thing that we kind of forget, you know, just societally, is like, you know, if you just keep your head on a swivel, keep your head up, move around, and always be thinking about this sort of stuff. And I think that's really what the difference between a person being prepared and a person not being prepared is really of like, you know, at what level, at what point does your anxiety constantly go off in your back of your head as like, are you ready? Right. You know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
I think when you're talking about, you know, safety at home, I think there's two things. You've got your general safety, and then you've got your preparatory safety. You know what I mean? And I think, you know, I was listening to, who was saying this a little while ago? I think it was Tim Kennedy, actually. He was saying, like, everybody's always so, like, preppers are so concerned about having, you know, dry goods in the basement and having guns and ammo
and the right tools on hand, and
and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, in most scenarios that are most likely to actually happen, what you need is home security. And home first of all, home security, it doesn't exist with the gray man, his wife, and his dog. You know what I mean? Like, 3 people cannot secure even the smallest home, right? Now I'm second guessing whether it was Tim Kennedy. It might have been John Lovell I was listening to that said this. That like to even secure something like you know, say a small, like 1,200 square foot home, small-ish 1,200 square foot home. You're going to need like 10 to 15 people to properly secure that home. You know, and that's where you need community. You need people that when something happens, you need to have a plan that people are going to congregate somewhere. It doesn't matter if it's my house or your house or his house or their house or whatever, but you have to get together. And you have to be able to create a perimeter, and you have to be able to secure that perimeter 24 hours a day. That means guard shifts. That means the whole 9 yards. So in like a real actual
now, you're talking about a fairly severe
collapse
scenario.
Yes, I'm talking about full collapse. And
even
even temporary. Like, I'll be perfectly honest with you, the best thing. What? Steve, watch how you pick up the vinyl cutter.
Or German.
So Jens is trash talking me for slicing my finger open. I have not confirmed that it's a vinyl cutter, Jens. I'm still not sure. I just think it was a vinyl cutter. It's healing quite well, though. Thank you for caring. Anyway, I'm talking not even like complete societal collapse. I'm talking about like temporary thing, you know? I'm sure that there were people getting together in Ottawa and other parts of southern Ontario over the last couple of weeks, right? You go to the guy who's got the generator back up at his house. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think this is the biggest thing of you know, I'm not gonna say necessarily misconception about being prepared or prepping or anything, but like it's such a sliding scale. But I do think that there are certain preps that you can do, certain things to get prepared that you can do that will apply to so many different things. You know, like, I'm the guy cheering, man, for the zombie apocalypse so I can drive Lambos down the street and hunt deer and do all that.
Amen.
Right?
Which is the most exciting, but also the least likely.
But is the least likely, right? The most likely scenario is that your power is going to get knocked out. And I think, you know, the thing I always tell people is you gotta understand that there's no help coming. So even in a 3-day or a 5-day or a 7-day knockdown, like, nobody's coming to help you. Nobody's coming to feed you or clothe you or take care of you or any of that stuff. And so and
the bigger the city you're in, the more dangerous that time's going to be.
Absolutely, it is, right? And so sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just kind of a bit of a tangent here. I'm jumping ahead of on the list a little bit, but you know, it's starting to feel like food and fuel shortages may be a reality in the not too distant future.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remain. What's that, Chris?
I think it's likely.
I think it is too.
It's already happening, guys. I'm sorry. I know I'm much more down that path than you guys for sure. It's happening. There's riots in Peru. There's riots in Sri Lanka has absolutely no fuel at all. The Middle East is basically not bone dry, but aren't able to really ship anything out of the Black Sea. Pakistan is essentially a failed state, ready to go to war with India. We've got grain basically cut off in the Ukraine and Russia. Like when the mainstream media,
that's gonna ripple.
Yeah, and when the mainstream media is already saying, "Hey guys, there's food shortages coming," that means that the food shortages are already here. You know, they're so behind the curve, and when they're admitting to stuff, man, it's already down. We're down.
At the same time, though, I don't think that it's going to end up like so many of us gun owners fantasize that it will.
For sure. Yeah.
You know, like it's going to be tough, but it's going to be like it already is. Mm-hmm. You're going to walk into the grocery store and one day they're going to have apples, but no bananas and no tomatoes.
Yeah.
And then the next time you walk into the grocery store, there'll be some tomatoes, but there won't be apples or pineapples or lettuce. You know what I mean? And it's just going to go that way.
Something I've been thinking about these past several days is fruits and vegetables. Where do we get most of them, right? And it's just like gunpowder and bullets and primers and that they all come out of the States, and the Americans' needs are fulfilled first.
Yes,
and then we get whatever surplus is left. Surplus, whatever's left. If anywhere to get guns, ammo, and food. I wonder.
JR definitely has the guns and ammo covered. Do you have a farm too, JR?
He's got dry food.
He's got the dried food. Okay.
Yeah.
And one of the things,
they'll sell MREs and stuff. I'm sure at the shooting range. Yeah.
Well, and one of the big things about like a collapse scenario, this is something I always think about. Again, would love to drive the Lambos and shoot out the window and do all that fun stuff. But the reality is you look at even something like Rome, when Rome collapsed, right? Rome at its peak had a million people. Even by the time it was like done, toast, the Visigoths had run across it. There was still 80,000 people living in Rome.
Yeah.
Right. So like, it's not like things collapse but it's not going to be like, it's not going to be Mad Max. It's not going to be,
exactly.
I'm Legend.
Well,
that kind
first
of
all,
stuff,
nobody can afford to, first of all, make those awesome vehicles.
Right.
Second of all, where do we get the fuel?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Man, all I want is the guitar that shoots the fire. That's what I want. Man, right?
All you have to do is make a deal with Master Blaster in Bartertown. You're good to go. But so first of all, Oscar says that it's okay because he's been training to live without fruits and veggies for years.
I can attest. Yeah.
And Scott makes an interesting comment. He says, support your local farmer. I just bought half a beef and a pig, cut the big stores out of it. That's a really interesting thought. And it makes me think of something else. I forget where I read this, but I was reading something because, I read these things every once in a while. And somebody was claiming that if we went back to a backyard farm society, just the land that the average person has in their backyard is enough to feed the entire country and have excess left over.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've got enough room in my backyard to feed you and you and you and you. I could easily support 4, maybe even 5 families with my backyard.
Do you have a
maybe
garden
once or twice over? The big issue would be
I don't.
The biggest issue would be that you might be able to get it once or twice or even 3 times, but then you're just going to deplete that land. So if you're not putting fertilizer and nitrogen and back in, the land will become basically sand in no time.
In commercial farming, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Backyard farming, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
You can rotate crop. There's lots of stuff to be able to do, right?
True,
I also don't think, like we were just talking
you,
about, I don't think that actual realistic apocalypse scenario is like Mad Max. I think that things like that will be available, just not as readily available, and it'll probably be more expensive.
For sure. And I actually like the fact that we're moving into these different scenarios. So like, let's, I think you've got a list here, Curt, of like the kind of the levels or different things, and do you want to maybe not prioritize, but like, what do we think is the most likely thing that we're going to see in the future?
Well, for our area, let's say, blizzards are always likely. Fires are possible, especially in urban areas. I mean, yes, there's wildfires and grass fires and stuff like that, but you want to see a fire spread if it's not controlled. It's through your damn neighborhood in the city, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Tornadoes, yes, they happen. It's not as though we're in Tornado Alley or anything. But you know what? I suppose pretty close to the top of the list, if not the top, is power outages.
I think that's the most likely, followed by exactly what you said, natural disasters. And I think that the natural disasters are going to cause most of the power outages to begin with, right?
That's right. Well, yes. The way.
What I always found interesting out here is like, you were mentioning, Chris, Southern Ontario, they'll go 5-6 days without power outage. I can literally think of one time the power was ever knocked out by a blizzard in Saskatchewan, and that was like last year, or earlier this year in Estevan. I really can't think of any.
Oh, you mean for a longer period of time?
Yeah, like I really like
all of Southeast Saskatchewan was out for, like, some people were in Southeast Saskatchewan were out for almost 2 weeks.
Right, but
was it that long?
But how?
Yeah, they were almost 2 weeks.
Right, but what's the frequency
Some
of that?
of them.
Like, it was such a rare incident to happen.
I think that's the point, is that those rare incidents are becoming more and more common.
Right. Yeah. And I just find it interesting that we always are like, man, a blizzard could knock out, but our power system seems to be pretty good when it comes to dealing with blizzards. I'm concerned about I always, when COVID sorry, am I allowed to say that? I don't know if we get banned or anything for saying that now. But when COVID,
I have to say, all hail our overlords.
Oh yes, all hail Lord Fauci and the overlords from Davos. Yes, I made a Davos reference. When COVID happened and we didn't know what level of the like what its death rate was, people were like, oh well, it's not that important. I said, well, there's like 12 people who run the power plants in northern Saskatchewan, and if half of them get sick,
they'll run themselves.
Oh yeah, right into the ground.
I wonder if they've done any cross training.
Yeah, they'll run themselves the same way that the economy or the budget balances itself.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I got to get a couple of comments in here. So first of all, how's that for a high bar? Spudman says, I'll start to worry when I see people drinking their own pee to survive. There's probably some reason to, like, there's some gray area in between there where you could have a little bit of concern.
Nope. If there's no urine drinking, I ain't worried.
I don't see anybody drinking their piss. I'm going to work.
Yeah, you're all right. What are you doing?
Yeah, at least put an ice cube in there. So the island retreat actually made a good point that I wasn't thinking of, that we were talking about, Mark. He says green bin waste can recharge your garden soil. He's absolutely right.
Absolutely, yeah. That's so true. I know that
the other thing is too, legumes are very important. As an old farm kid, grow your beans and lentils and shit like that.
You mean for nutrition, or because they
both.
don't take a lot out of the soil?
Well, they dump nitrogen into the soil.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir. Grow your beans and lentils and peas.
Really? I did not know that.
Yes.
Well, and this is
poo in your garden, and throw your eggshells in there too.
Are we supposed to wipe with the eggshells, or can we use paper still?
That's entirely up to you. I wouldn't personally recommend it.
Who was it that said earlier on? Somebody made the comment, in when shit hits the fan, all you need is Varget powder and toilet paper.
Right.
Was it Scott that said that?
Yeah.
Well, and one thing I think that's interesting, like with some of this, backyard gardening or any of these preps, and this is kind of a general comment, is, lot of people are like, man, I got my guns and I've got my beans, and I'm like, yeah. So how often do you fire that rifle?
Yeah.
Number
when was
one.
Last time you when was the last time you ate those beans? Like, how's your digestive system? And then you've got people like, you've got a pot belly. You can hardly like walk up your stairs without wheezing, and you're going to be like Rambo in the freaking apocalypse. Like, more important than a lot of the stuff to have. You need to have skills, right? You need to have physical health, right?
Yeah,
kind of stuff I think is more important, really, before you start getting your guns and ammo and your water together,
Which means, Oscar, you can't just grow beans and lentils, you have to eat them too.
That's right.
That's right.
So is it when we're talking, I want to investigate this a little bit more, and some other people here seem to know a little bit about this, and you may know all about it too, Curt. What is it that makes them put nitrogen back into the soil? Is it because the stalk that everything grows on decomposes and that puts more nitrogen into the soil, or is there something with them themselves?
I don't know. Now you're getting into botany.
I know. I want to get into the technical aspects of it.
I'm an old farm kid. That's all I know.
Okay.
Now
you just know that it works.
I don't remember enough from biology and that to explain it, but nitrogen fixing it's kind of like the same process as oh my god, how plants take sunlight and
photosynthesis
convert. Thank you, Jesus Christ.
It's the nitrogen cycle.
Right. It's all part of that cycle, but instead of plants using that nitrogen to grow themselves, legumes fix nitrogen and actually dump it back into the soil. Now,
isn't that interesting?
Nitrogen nodules on the roots, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's what Kris says, is nitrogen nodules on the roots. Here's an interesting comment that we'll have to look up another time maybe, but Nathan says that we should look up the Three Sisters method of gardening.
I'm a Lois Hole guy
benefits
myself.
The other two. Yeah. You're a what?
Lois Hole guy.
Lois Hole?
Lois Hole.
Lois Hole. That sounds like a porn star.
Actually, it kind of does, actually. But she's some old broad that wrote, I don't know how many books about gardening. It was a joke for the gardening nerds.
Okay.
Wow.
That went like way over my head.
Wow. You made a gardener's joke reference.
Like, there's a verse for everything.
Hey, you know what, Curt? I got a big enough backyard. When shit hits the fan, just bring the seeds and let's get her done. JR actually making a good point here. He says, remember that if shit hits the fan, it's too late to start collecting stuff. Start now, start small, and quickly you're set. He makes a really good point. Now I'm going to, since we're talking about power outages as an option, I don't know if it's because I'm on a shit part of the grid or what, but for about the last 4 years in a row, I have had a minimum of one power outage per year in the winter where our power has been out for between 4 and 8 hours.
Wow.
Now, I've been lucky so far that the power has not gone out when it's been, minus 30, minus 40, minus 50, like it has been every year for the last couple of years also. But we had the inducer motor go on our furnace fan last winter, and not the one that we just are exiting now, but I mean the one before that. And our fan didn't run for, I think it was about six and a half hours before they got, we were able to get someone in. They replaced it right away. It was great, but it was minus 32 out, natural minus 32 on that day. And in 6.5 hours, it went from 21 degrees in our house to 6 degrees in our house. And that was with 2 space heaters running to try and slow down the heat loss, 2 1,500 watt space heaters. Yeah. And so my wife and I decided, with all the power outages that we've been having, we called up an electrician and we had a Generlink installed on our meter. And it's if you don't know what that is, it's an automatic transfer switch, so that you can plug a generator into your house and it will automatically switch. It'll cut you off from the shore power, so you're not backfeeding into the system, and it'll allow you to run your house on a generator. Then we bought a generator, a tri-fuel generator that runs off of gasoline, liquid propane, and natural gas.
Wow.
And the reason we did that is because even if your power goes out, the natural gas is still going to flow. And in most scenarios, your natural gas is going to continue to flow for a period of time.
Depends on how far spread that or how widespread that power outage is, because you still need pumps.
Yeah, true. Yes. But let's be honest. It's probably the most likely sustainable, stable is the word, fuel source to be able to run a generator off of. And we had a gas fitter come in and run a gas line. And so now what I'm expecting will probably be this coming winter. We will be able to plug in our generator if we have those power outages, which seem more and more likely all the time. We won't have to worry about it. JR is asking the question, how big is the generator? It's on gasoline, I think it was 9,200 continuous watts. On propane, it's 7,500 continuous watts. And on natural gas, it's 5,500 continuous watts. So it's enough to run our furnace and a couple of lights. And our fridge, and that's really what we needed to run, right?
Right.
Yeah.
This is pretty important, I think. So you have a Jenny and a switch, the switch gear setup, the fuel. What happens if you don't?
You go to someone's house who does and help them secure the perimeter.
Well, and this is,
what if you're not welcome there?
Yeah.
Get better friends.
Well, and this is the issue, right? I think this is one of the biggest issues around people who do prep and who are ready. You know, you can shit on the gray man and whatever, but like if everybody's lights are off and you're nice and toasty warm and your lights are still on in the house, fucking people are coming for you, right?
Which is why you need home security.
Exactly. But I think that's something that,
home security. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Mark.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, you know, that it's that, you know, cooking a meal, like just the fact that you have things, you know, that you're not, you know, emaciated, or you have that extra food and you're eating it and you're cooking it. You have to be extra careful with all of that kind of stuff. You know, letting people know about any of that kind of stuff even beforehand. You know, 6 months down the road, I'll tell you, that guy who came to your house to fix your furnace or do your water heater or whatever the case, he's gonna remember, when I was in that house that time, you know, when shit gets crazy. You know, it's that saying, people are 9 meals away from total anarchy, and you always got to be leery of that. No, and
that's why I don't think that guns are the most important thing, or probably should even need to. Well, I shouldn't say should, because I think there's a million ways to skin this cat. And everyone's, you need to do this first, and then you can do this, and then you can do. I don't think it needs to be done that way. I think as long as you follow what JR is saying, start now and go in at your pace. But I think that's where guns become important, though.
Yeah.
Because you can't have home security if you don't have a means to defend yourself.
Yeah, and we're talking extreme cases for any law enforcement out there watching or anything like that.
We're certainly
talking total collapse. Total lawlessness and collapse.
Last resort.
Yeah. Well, but that also does lead to the fact that of what I was talking about before is, you know, you kind of have to almost follow some of the Zombieland rules, like rule number 1, cardio. You know, like you have to be able to physically be able to defend yourself. You have to physically be in shape. Like, you know, it's funny because we do get this sense sometimes in the prepper world, again, like I say, you know, I'll take care of myself. It's like, dude, what are you going to walk 10 kilometers? Just imagine the amount of calories that you're going to burn just trying to get to the river to get water to bring it back to your house every day.
See, and that's a very interesting point, is water.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So like, sorry, go ahead. I just don't think people fully get like how much extra work and how much more they need to do to be prepared. But go ahead.
Because nobody's had to do that kind of work for decades now.
Yeah.
I think that water's an interesting one because, number one, I think because I think a lot of times we tend to fantasize when it comes to preparedness rather than being practical.
Yes.
And we tend to, like, in reality, we secure the sexy things first. We got all the guns, we got all the ammo. Yes.
And the MREs. Yeah.
And the MREs, like, sex taken care of. Boom. We're good to go.
I've thought, sorry, I'm going to interject here. I've thought about this a lot. You can continue if you remember after I'm done my blurb, but you think about it when you got to get the hell out of town. Okay. I've got gas in jerry cans for my truck. I've got this and that and whatever shit in my truck ready to go. Yeah. I've got a couple of bags. We're good. Right. I want it. If things are really bad, I want to take some firearms. Okay, I have it in my head which ones I'm going to take.
Yeah.
Who's going to carry out all my ammo that I want, need, and in what kind of time?
Exactly. That's why I think that most realistically, bugging in is better in most scenarios than bugging out.
99% of scenarios, bugging in is better, I would say.
Yeah.
It is. I don't know. I've struggled with that as well because the farm is an hour away for me, and it offers a lot of security.
Yeah,
but even
for sure it
exactly
does.
Where I would go, but I just don't know how I would get there in the condition I want to get in there, and with the tools that I want out there.
Yeah.
Well, there's the whole you can have. The recommendation is to have kind of caches along your path, but the question is have you done the bug out test? Have you bugged out, done it and see how long it takes you and what is it going to take, and all.
And by the way, have you done it when you had to ruck everything out there?
When you had to ruck it out, and what's that? What does that feel like? And right, and of course, there's all these other things, and then and you get into those, and of course, there's all those scenarios like, whoa, what if somebody starts shooting at us, and you've got your family and everything? I think bugging in is your better bet because you know the area, it's secure, and then when things calm down, then move.
Except for rare scenarios like World War III happens and Russia's dropping the bombs, or your house is burning down. Don't stay there.
Yeah,
get out.
You brought up a good point, Mark. That when was the last time you ran a test or whatever? You did a trial, and back before I had kids, or even before I got married, I could do that, no problem. Yeah. But it seems bloody stupid because now I have people, I have humans that I need to take, that I'm responsible for, right?
Yeah.
And I haven't done it.
Right. And are they capable? How capable are they, right?
So there's another thing. We were talking about this at work this morning,
right?
A little bit about, the girlfriend not checking her oil and not knowing how to do certain things that now that person, in essence, becomes a burden.
Absolutely.
On you, because you're now forced to do everything you need to do to survive, plus do that other stuff that they don't know how to do.
That's right.
That is essential for the group survival.
For sure. I've had this conversation with my wife, and she understands that I'm going to feed her to the zombies and protect the kids.
Excellent.
So
as long as there's that
we've got our plan set.
But your best bet is doing it at my house, so you can the perimeter and have power. Exactly.
No, but you're 100% right. Like people can become a liability in those scenarios very, very quickly. And what is your decision? Because this is the things that if you don't think about this stuff beforehand, you have to have some of these things figured out. One of the things that I think about is in these scenarios, hey, you have let's say you have your neighbors who know that you've got the Jenny, or they see your lights on, or they know you're that guy that I've seen with the guns or whatever, right? And they come knocking at your door, and they've got their kids, and they're saying, "Hey, I need your help. I need your help." Like what, but so you need to have that decision figured out and made beforehand, right? And how
JR
you handle that.
JR made an interesting comment about that already. That's the wrong comment, though. He says, no, that's the wrong comment. Where the hell? Here we go. He says, I have extension cords to run to my adjacent neighbors so that I can run their furnaces. Keep friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's an interesting idea. Now, I'm guessing JR's got a generator that runs with more wattage than mine does, but it's an interesting point nonetheless.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, there's a couple of comments we should probably get to. The first one I think is worth asking. So what kind of meat are you growing in your garden?
Beans, just like all the fast food places, they're beyond meat.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that, actually. However, I like meat, but I will say that in the cities, like in the city of Saskatoon, you're not allowed to keep chickens. You're not allowed to keep, I don't know, goats. You're not allowed to keep animals inside the city limits. And then that can definitely make it a little bit hard. But I'll tell you what, I don't have to look around for very long before I find a jackrabbit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's a field full of gophers if it really came down to it, just out by back door.
So if things really collapsed, I don't think really went south.
Yeah.
I don't think your local farmer just outside the city is going to miss a calf.
Yeah.
In fact, he'll probably trade a calf for other provisions.
Yes. Yeah.
Or you're going to get into a firefight with him over his calf.
Well,
entirely
right.
possible, right?
Yeah. Well, and this is a thing too, is, you have to consider barter. Like what's going to be valuable in barter,
right?
And what
gold.
Can you have?
Everybody's going to want gold. Everybody,
gold.
You got to get with your fucking gold right now.
I'll tell you what,
and your Bitcoin too.
It's not good.
Sorry, that one just drives me nuts. I'm like, fuck off with your gold, man. You can't eat gold.
It's not going to be bottle caps or gold. That is for sure. There was somebody else who was saying something that I wanted to point out. I wanted to ask this question to Jens. He says, backfeeding is not the biggest reason why you need a transfer switch. Elaborate, please, because I am not aware of the other things. And Jens happens to be an electrician, so he would know these things.
He's just going to respond with, it's too complicated to tell you over text. We'll get together next weekend.
Yeah. That helps us on the show.
You need to bring up Nathan's comment.
Which one?
Russians are coming.
Yeah. I like Jens's second comment.
I'm not there yet. I did want to bring this one up first. Sorry. Chris says we're putting a wood burning fireplace in. Right. I think that's an excellent idea. However, Dan makes a good counterpoint. The smell of cooked food can travel a long ways. Again, secure your house. You need security.
Okay. I want to take one here. Dan says, where is it? Sorry. Yeah, but salt is a real old school barter item. You know what? That is true to the portion of the population who know how to use it. Right? It's
all the old babushkas will know.
Well, right. Yep.
So
when you're tanning your neighbor's hide.
So it's interesting. Salt,
literally, or like their hide, or.
So an interesting about salt is there's actually a book called Salt, and that I own and read.
There's a movie called Salt too. It's probably not what you're talking about.
Not the same. No.
Okay.
But the book posits that the vast majority of human civilizations are actually, we always say they're built on rivers and near water, but they're actually built near salt.
Right.
And because salt is such a valuable commodity, pre-industrial, pre-everything. And of course, I think though, like you said, though, you got to know what the hell to do with salt.
I know we have a potash plant. a kilometer and a half from my house, but
Pretty
do we have any
blessed that
salt
way.
lines?
When you want
Yeah. You want that fertilizer. It's like go to the giant mountain of it about a kilometer and a half from my house.
There are 3 places where you can get potash in this world: Russia, Saskatchewan, Australia.
Yeah.
That's it. And
but do we have salt? Is really what I was wondering. Do we have salt near here?
regular
You
salt?
go down north
saltpeter.
of
Yeah, that's what we have.
Yeah, north of
That's what potash is. The saltpeter.
right.
But that's more potassium than sodium, isn't it?
Oh, you're talking like table salt. Like, do we have like?
No,
like
I'm talking
chloride?
sodium salt. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's places even in Saskatchewan where you can get it.
North of Swift Current, there's salt caverns.
Yeah, and there's
really?
a place outside of Strathclair, Manitoba. It's called Salt Flat Lake, something like that.
Right?
And
Okay.
yeah, and it's just a salt bed.
You have to walk. Both of those are quite a ways, though.
Yeah,
right.
this is
Yeah.
true.
But
So
you know
this
what?
is-
You trade the potash for the salt.
That's right.
Sucker.
Yeah. Here's an interesting question. I want to know: do you guys have night vision or thermal handhelds?
Mm.
No, just a long stick.
I don't reveal my preps.
It's interesting that JR says that because he was showing me a contraption when at the Calgary Gun Show. Were you there yet, Curt, when he was showing that?
No, I don't think so. No.
He had a pretty interesting handheld contraption for that would be very valuable for home security at night specifically. So Jens says the answer is phase sync. When your power comes back on and the phases are out of sync, it equals a big bada boom. That's actually interesting. So that's why the Jenner link specifically mentions what happens when your power comes back on, because it obviously phase syncs it. So, okay. So that's good to know.
So if the aliens invade, you don't have to worry because the powers ain't coming back on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose so. What does AV gas? What is AV gas?
Avgas, aviation gas.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, but can you run aviation gas in just regular gasoline things?
You can. I'm not sure how long it'll last.
Okay.
Your thing. It's
thing.
It's quite a bit more volatile, I guess. I think it is anyway.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Wolverines.
Is that the comment you wanted? The Russians are coming, Wolverines.
Wolverines.
Have you guys heard? Apparently, there's a group of, I don't know if they're American, Canadian, but a group of North Americans over in Ukraine that are riding Wolverines on all like these bombed out Russian tanks and stuff.
That's awesome.
Apparently, it's a thing. I think even like CTV picked up on it or something like that.
Nice.
Like a mainstream media organization picked up.
There's
on that, right?
nothing. So Wolverines. I'm gonna go movie nerd here for a second. When the dad starts yelling, and Rooster's out. When the dad starts yelling, "Avenge me! Avenge me!" I'm like, that is like the best line. I'm telling my kids that, man. If Russians ever taking me away, you're damn right I'm screaming, "Avenge me!" Yeah.
20 kilograms NG. What's that?
No, kill it.
20 kilograms NG. I like my hot tub. JR says 20 kilograms NG. I like my hot tub. Essential boogaloo equipment. But I don't know what
Natural
20
gas. 20.
Oh,
Probably 20. Is it 20 kilovolts? No.
20 kilograms? How do they
of natural
live?
gas, of liquid natural gas. I don't know. I don't know how it's
20,000 watt
20,000 somethings.
natural gas.
Yeah. Or
Jeez,
20,000.
I'm glad we got through that.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
painful.
Let's move on.
He probably meant kilowatt, because there's the 20 kilowatt natural.
Oh yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Natural gas
All right.
generators.
So moving on a little bit, if you guys want.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the last thing I have on scenarios is societal or economic collapse, and within that, or civil disturbances even.
Yeah.
And within that, I'm talking rioting, gang activity, public shootings, and witnessing crimes. And
so, by the way, all that's already happening at a higher pace over the last year and a half at least.
Now, this is why it came to mind for me today when I was doping this stuff out. But witnessing crimes, there's some interesting activity from people, like motherfucker, the proliferation of filming shit with your phone instead of
helping.
Or instead of getting the fuck out of there so that you can help. Like, listen, I've written down some points, but without looking, do you think, what do you guys think you should do in the case of witnessing a crime or gang activity or something like that?
I think that, sorry, I'm going to cut you off. I think that Tim Kennedy puts it very well. There are three types of people on this planet. There are sheep, there are wolves, and there are sheepdogs.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing to understand, regardless of what you are, and I think that all three have a place not necessarily have a place, but all three are always going to exist. Slaves,
food, and
pirates, basically, right? Slaves are slaves. Jesus Christ, sheep are going to be what they are. They go about their lives and they have very little capacity and very little capability. They're there to bump the populace. They're there to bump the GDP. Yeah. And then you have the wolves, and the wolves, the way Tim Kennedy describes it, and I think it's very apt. The wolves use violence to prey on the weak.
Yep.
100%. Basically, they are the powerful but unethical.
100%.
Who see the sheep as nothing valuable other than food. And then there are the sheepdogs, who are just as capable of violence as the wolves are,
but regulated.
But are regulated and act according to a standard of ethics, and more to the point, believe in the value of the sheep and the value of protecting the sheep.
Right. You know what I see a lot, and you guys will agree, I'm sure. Sheep acting like or dressing like wolves.
Yeah.
But pretending that they're sheepdogs. Yeah. Like in their minds, they're sheepdogs.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the whole thing, though, is, and I guess what you're getting at is kind of, around this witnessing crime, like, if I've got my kids with me and I'm in the middle of witnessing crime, am I willing to put them at risk to go defend, to be the sheepdog? No, right?
Second. Nope.
Not right. So I think a lot of it depends upon where are we at scenario wise. Like if we're talking riots, and I'm pretty confident that they'll pass on by and things will be not okay, but things are going to be, generally not gone to complete shit. I think that's a lot of different scenario than saying, okay, I'm the only one to, like, because we're just talking about, like, I'm the only one capable enough to even protect my family. Right. So then do I go out and help the person who's being accosted down the way and possibly end up in a scenario where I'm dead and now my family has nobody to to deal with or to protect them, right?
Yeah, I get it.
I guess short answer to that is exactly what you just said. I mean, it depends on the scenario, and I think that that's probably a decision that every person has to make in the moment, and it's probably a difficult decision to make, an impossible decision to make beforehand.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure. You know what, you can prepare for a set of scenarios. In this situation, I would do this, and especially if you have some area awareness, if you sort of rehearse that situation, that scenario in your head before, as you're walking through the parking lot toward Walmart or whatever, right? But you cannot capture all of them. You predict all of them, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, you've got to protect yourself first, It's the same thing as that guy going down in a tank. Like I don't mean a tank. I mean a fuel tank or something like that, right?
Yeah.
The first instinct in confined space incident scenarios is the whole watch, your buddy outside the tank, watching to make sure you're all right. His first instinct is to go in and get you when you go down. That is the worst fucking thing you can do now, because somebody's got to now drag 2 fucking bodies out of there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're down because you're trying to help somebody else, you can't take care of your kids. You can't get back to a safe place if there's a threat that put the other person down in the first place.
That's right.
You're just increasing the burden on someone else.
So this is probably a good point to segue into just general emergency preparedness. Right. The scenarios that happen actually quite commonly, somebody falling through the ice, somebody going off the road, an accident, that sort of thing, or just seeing somebody getting hurt or seeing somebody be hurt, or, how many people, first of all, I think the most popular thing that people take in that regard is regular, like Red Cross, first aid CPR.
It's your baseline.
Yeah, absolute baseline. And here's the thing. A lot of times, and for a long portion of Red Cross's history in that course, it does not really prepare you. It's kind of like, here's an interesting thing. I was having a conversation with Rebecca. I won't say her last name, but she's the owner of Back 40 Wilderness First Aid in Saskatoon. And I'm going to be doing a project with her in 2023, and it's going to be pretty cool. And we were literally just talking about what sort of stuff she would teach in a course that I'm going to be doing. And she said, well, like I could just go through like the Red Cross thing and just like chop out all the theoretical bullshit that they teach. That
if you want a certificate
isn't going to help
to show your
anyway.
boss.
Yeah, well, but if you want the certificate, you have to go through all the theoretical bullshit.
Right.
But she's talking about like I could just like chop out all that shit, and just teach the stuff that people are going to encounter. And I think what happens, I've been through first aid CPR courses. I used to have to recertify on a yearly basis. I'm sure a lot of people listening still do have to recertify on a yearly basis. And you come to a point where you sleep through 9/10 of the course, and then you kind of pay attention when they make you get up and go over to the dummies and just like, oh, so have they changed it now? Is it still 20-2, or is it now like 37-6, or like is that changed, or is it the same? And you kind of pay attention during that sort of portion of the course, but then they just glaze over, like just shoot past as quickly as they can, bandaging, and and it's all theory, right? They gloss over using a tourniquet. They absolutely gloss over how to put on a splint and different body parts and how they would be splinted differently.
Right.
And I think that if you actually give a shit about being prepared for an emergency, you need to learn that stuff.
Yeah.
And that means like, don't go for the certificate so you can tell everybody, look, I'm a responsible citizen. I took the first aid CPR course and I have a plastic mask in my glove box. Go get the training that actually might make a difference.
Yeah.
And then don't get a fucking plastic mask because you're worried that somebody might have a fucking cold sore. Put a fucking tourniquet or 3 in your car. Get a road emergency kit and put stuff in there that's useful.
Well, and this is something you and I have spoken at great length offline about this whole thing. Is there's so many skills that are perishable that people learn, and then that's like first aid is a prime example. Like, so you do your first aid kit, you learn, so for like a week and a half you remember that shit, and then 6 months down the road you haven't reviewed it, you haven't thought about it, you haven't come back to it, and now you're gonna say in the middle of a violent situation or in an emergency you're gonna be able to recall it. Never gonna happen, not in a million years, right? Like this is why like martial artists train all the time so that they don't forget in the heat of the moment. This is why shooters train all the time so that under that pressure they can still make that same shot. And then people have this expectation that, oh yeah, I took that, I learned how to, and this goes way into like far into prepping, but everything from gardening to canning all the way to like how to build a fire. Like, so that one time under no pressure, and the breeze was at a nice northeast, and it was sunny and it was 21 degrees, and you built that fire outside. Okay, well, now try it in the middle of the dead of winter when it's snowing, and that fire is going to keep you alive. Like, and do different scenarios where you keep on building these skills and really refreshing them, because if you don't, under pressure, it's never gonna. Your brain will just completely go out.
I've seen it, and I imagine you guys have too. Like, I've seen the toughest of men. The guys that walk around with their chest puffed out, and I've done this. I've been everywhere, all that kind of stuff. Run around squealing like a child.
Yeah. As soon as somebody had cut something.
I've seen incidents like that where somebody was severely injured and they didn't have a fucking clue what to do and just ran. The toughest of men. And
I know I keep quoting all these, experts and media or internet personalities today, but I think that, it's better to leave it into the experts' words than my words, because I'm certainly not an expert. So I was watching a Garantham episode the other week, and he was making a comment, and I'm going to paraphrase, but he said something to the effect of, everybody always thinks that they're going to rise to the occasion when something happens. And he says, but the reality is, he says, you will not rise to the occasion. You will sink to the lowest common denominator of your basic training. And that means that you need to elevate your level of training.
That's right.
Because you're going to sink down to that. You're not going to rise to the occasion. And he says it's a pipe dream and it just won't happen. And, it's an interesting thing. I think I've said this on air before. And this isn't my idea. This is something that I listened to people who are both martial artists and military veterans having conversations, and just thinking like, yeah, that's true. And they've said this a lot. And people that don't even know each other, but both are martial artists and military people, have heard them say it independently of each other, is that sport fighting is life amplified, and combat, like actual combat, is sport fighting amplified. You just being somebody who's a sport fighter, knowing that you can't even do sport fighting without preparing for it, because you will sink to the lowest level of your training, even in sport fighting, and then amplify that into an actual situation, real life, whatever. And just, it gets amplified even more.
Absolutely.
The ego writes a check the body can't carry. That's a timely comment from Jens.
That is beautiful, Jens.
Someone's gonna go watch Top Gun Magnum.
Top Gun Maverick.
Magnum. Did I say Magnum?
You said Magnum. Maverick. Yeah. I've heard really good things. I can't wait.
Just so the people who are listening, Jens says the ego writes a check that the body can't cash. So he's not wrong.
Not wrong.
Cappy made another comment. So talk about this one, but then I want to talk about the other comment he made.
Yeah. Okay. Cappy says, and until you get a few rounds under your belt, you'll fall to 80% of your best training. And he's talking about a few rounds of fighting, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense to me.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah. And it's an interesting thing. It's the Pareto Principle. If anybody is familiar with that, right?
Yeah. You betcha.
Yeah. So he made another really good comment. He said, sheep get nervous around sheepdogs. They look like wolves. He is not fucking wrong.
The posturing.
I don't even think it's the posturing. I think often, like, true sheepdogs, you can tell them when you see them. You know what I mean? Like, I think that there's it's not just
a
like
lot of the
cut
times
and dried.
you can't. And
if you're a sheep, maybe sometimes you can't, but I think that it's probably a gradient. It's not you're a sheep, you're a wolf dog, or you're a sheepdog, or you're a wolf. For most people, I think there's a gradient. But
I think so.
you're going to get a certain percentage of the population that are 100% sheepdog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Fewer
I don't
and
think
fewer.
anybody can claim that Jocko Willink is anything other than 100% sheepdog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You probably eat sheep dogs.
Exactly. And I've seen that, where you get those people that are just 100% sheepdog and in a crowd, and they just, there's a almost like an aura of weariness around them because they don't, they understand the energy, whatever this person's putting off. They understand that this person is dangerous, but they don't know, is this person ethical?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've seen that in action where people get nervous around people like that, and they're worried.
They get all fucking fidgety and everything.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. I really think we've touched on a lot, but I really like us to kind of get to some of this gear stuff because at the end of the day, no, it's all good. It's just I think at the end of the day, all of the skills and everything like that, you need to have some tools, and it's cool, fun, tactical shit to talk about too. So
JR is so fucking right, man.
Yeah, he says sheep don't like sheepdogs because they don't like being reminded that they're sheep. 100%. Yeah, that's a thing
for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Okay, so we're talking about gear now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are we talking about, the running the gamut here, or are we just talking about guns right now?
Well, we've got these different kits, and one of the things I noticed on here is you had bug out and get home kits, and I think get home kits is something I think people always imagine, like we were talking about, like how people always have this vision of like, oh, man, we're gonna bug out, we're gonna head out, and whatever the case may be, I'm gonna grab my ruck and we're gonna go. But I think where people really drop the ball is they don't have get home bags. I travel frequently, and I have a get home bag. You know, my wife and knows kind of if there's ever a scenario, what to do in the house, and knows that I'm coming home. Like that's my goal is to make it.
What's
home.
in your get home bag?
So a couple of things. I've got. I always make sure that I've got obviously fire starting materials. Make sure that I've got a bivvy. Bivvies are really underrated.
When you say a bivvy, are you talking about a portable shit shelter?
No. I'm talking about a portable. Basically it's a sleeping bag. It's an emergency sleeping bag with a bivouac. Yeah.
I got you. Okay.
And it's basically got a hood, and you can literally, that. I've got self-defense tools in it. Obviously things like knives and all of that for whatever you need, cordage, portable radio. I've got hand warmers, food stuffs, kind of run the gambit. And basically I have it all in a small 30-liter backpack because again, people think you're gonna ruck a 60-pound pack however long. You got to keep it small and tight, and a couple days worth of food and things like water purification, life straws, all of that kind of stuff.
You put a life straw in, or are you putting tablets in?
I do both because I 100% believe in the principle of one or two is one and one is none. So I abide by that rule. And then obviously I have that as kind of the base kit. And then I have got inside of the vehicle, there's also a vehicle kit that has all of your standard vehicle, stuff, tools and flares and first aid kits and all of that shit. You gotta have a flare.
No flares for sure. You do. Yeah. And another one that I put in mine, and again, the difference between my winter kit and my summer kit. In my winter kit, I have hand and toe warmers. Those yeah.
Well, and like
and then you kind of candle and blah blah blah.
Oh yeah, I've got the candle, and actually, so an interesting thing that I actually use that is kind of the coffee can, the big aluminum coffee can, and I fill that with a lot of the stuff, and I put that can inside the bag. So you're like double waterproofing everything. And then you also have a can that you can use for cooking, fire, whatever the case might be, using it for warmth. A couple things that people always forget is underwear, socks, and a change of clothes inside of their get home bag. Man, I have 4 pairs of socks in my get home bag, and I use what the hell is it called?
Did you say 4 pairs of socks?
4 pairs of socks, but
like just regular socks?
Regular socks. But what I do is I have my Jesus Christ, I can't think of it. My saver.
Jesus Christ?
No, my vacuum sealer, and I vacuum seal all of the clothes, right?
Yeah.
So that everything is nice and small.
So what my wife and I have for, and we don't have a get home bag. What we have is a winter and summer version of our emergency road kit.
Right.
And when we're going on trips, it goes into the trunk.
Yeah.
When we're driving around in town, it's right over there. I can see it. It's a little 30 liter green backpack. But in the winter version of that kit, we have 2 pairs of socks, one for me and one for her. Yeah. But they're the thick ass wool socks, and we've got them right in next to the 2 foil blankets and the road flares and the hand warmers and the toe warmers.
Yeah. Well, and the big reason I don't go with actually the big woolly socks is like if I'm out hiking or whatever, I would do them. But I want something that's quick, small, as light as can be, and dries easily. Right? Yeah. Dries easy. That's actually why.
Are they going to dry any easier than regular socks?
Like you get a pair of wool socks wet, and they'll maintain their heat a little bit better. But
you get cotton socks wet, and it's going to be the same.
But that's why you carry more pairs.
I got you. That's why you go with more pairs.
Okay. I go with more pairs and a thinner sock, and then you can also, having more socks, you can also use that. You can use socks to carry stuff, capture stuff, do whatever you need with socks. You know. Yeah, and just that kind of stuff. And sorry, and one thing I was going to say is, like, make sure that inside of your get home bag or whatever your bags are, is that you know how to use everything in there. Because like there's so many, like you see these kits, or people will buy them and throw them in their car or whatever the thing, and they don't even know how to use the goddamn fire starter in there, or do you know how to lash?
Yeah, but they have it.
But they got it. Woo, right? Yeah, exactly. And that's when we're going to rock up, take your shit, and then leave, right? You know,
right.
Yeah. So that's the big thing. Sorry.
We kind of glossed over this before. I think we all know it, all 3 of our opinions on it. Chris says he wants to be a honey badger. I don't disagree. He also, what are our thoughts on alternate hard currency for trade, silver, gold, etc.? I think we already talked about this at length in a real shit hits the fan. I think there are other things like salt and other things that are going to be more valuable than silver or gold in a real collapse that probably isn't very practical, but I mean, but if it were to happen, I think there are some scenarios, maybe silver and gold, but I just, we have to understand that silver and gold especially, has been controlled for so long to keep it valuable, because gold is not particularly rare. It's been controlled,
nor particularly useful,
exactly.
Exactly. In its raw form, or whatever you want to say.
So I certainly see some scenarios where precious metals, having some of them stockpiled, could be valuable, and I'm certainly not an expert on this either, but I don't see many practical situations where stockpiling precious metals or anything like that are going to and especially if you start talking things like diamonds, like those can be made in a lab, right?
Nobody's gonna want them when they're fucking hungry and have no other means to get food.
Exactly. That's the other thing too. You can't eat gold.
The way I've always heard it described is, gold is the training wheels of an economy. It's kind of like what you do when you don't have a true full economy working, and it's better than shit hitting the fan. So it's kind of like, hey, things are now on the upswing, and things are, governments are being reformed. Then that's when gold and those sorts of things would become a useful currency.
Yeah, exactly. As society gets back into it, once the people that are controlling the economy start controlling the precious metals again, and there is a semblance of an economy, 100%. I see a scenario where that becomes valuable. Yeah.
But like in the interim, man, you need food and guns and meals and cordage and boots and friends, and you need all that shit before you ever need gold.
When I saw JR's
and alcohol is a good train.
And we should talk about that alcohol, because I've been meaning to get on that. But before we do, when I first saw JR's comment here that we have up, I thought he was making a joke. I thought he said trade items, lightsabers. And I was like, that's a strange comment coming from JR. But
man, I would not trade shit for my lightsaber.
Yeah,
I trade all my
keeping that bitch
for one lightsaber. Are you kidding me?
How else am I going to cut off a limb and cauterize it at the same time? So yeah, alcohol. Here's the thing. Okay. People want to get fucked up when times are good.
Yeah.
And like it or not, whether it becomes a crutch or it becomes an addiction or an ism, whatever it is, people are going to use alcohol to cope.
Yep.
Yes.
And that is going to make it valuable.
Yes.
And that's not even mentioning its value as a sterilizing agent, as a flammable agent, any of these other things. And by the way,
you one for hitting somebody over the head.
Exactly. The bottles that they come in,
the
Molotov cocktail applications.
I would also actually, I would also be remiss in not mentioning cannabis is also a good trade item as well. People,
unfortunately,
people that want it, they'll do a lot for it.
And as somebody who doesn't drink very much and doesn't smoke at all, I would like. Well, I wouldn't. I have a decent amount of alcohol. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't stockpile pot, but I certainly understand somebody who might do it, especially if they smoke it themselves and whatever else. Mm-hmm. But the great thing about alcohol is, like, you don't need to be stockpiling, copious amounts of I'm trying to think of an expensive liquor right now, and I can't think of a single one. Like, you don't need like single malt scotch and go ahead, keep that for yourself. But if you're looking for a barter item, you buy the fucking bulk Kirkland signature vodka is all you need. It'll sterilize, it'll light on fire.
Nitrate will get you places.
Yeah. Exactly. Now this is funny. And JR says alcohol. Who would stockpile that stuff? Yeah. He's got an entire wall of liquor.
Well, and one of the other things is, as a skill, learn how to make alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like, if you want to, if you really want to come out on top, it's the idea of not just surviving, but thriving. You got to have skills. You got to know how to do stuff, because that's what's going to trade. Man, if somebody's like, hey, I grew all these vegetables, but I don't know how to turn them into anything, and I don't know how to preserve them. Well, guess what, man? You give me half and I'll do it up for you. Yeah. That's where you get your trade. That's how you do.
You give me 75% and I'll teach you how to use the other 25.
That's right. Exactly.
Well, meat processing and that too. Like, if you've got some butcher skills and shit like that, preservation again.
That's right.
There's a lot of people that don't know a lot anymore.
If you can't afford to prep, and if you don't know where to start, I always tell people, start with your health and then go to your skills. Yeah. Because if even at the end of the day, if you don't have an extra bit of food or an extra bit of water or anything like that, but you know how to do shit, people, to Chris's point about having friends, people will invite you and they'll help. The guy with the friends will help. I would not use.
Spud says, I would not use cannabis if food was hard to find. You know what?
Rate a Frito-Lay's.
But here's the thing, man. Do you know how many people would trade their food for cannabis in a crisis?
Yeah, that's right.
And you know what? I'm eating.
Yeah.
Learn to sew. That's actually a good comment from Joel. Learn to sew.
Yep, for sure.
So this is an interesting thing. So, really the greatest generation, our grandparents' generation, these are the people, the last generation that really, as a culture, practiced a lot of these skills.
That's right.
I still have
generation.
Yeah, exactly. I've got aunts still that still can and sew, and like my mom can sew, she can't. And I just for a lot of my life, I don't practice these things on a regular basis, but I'm not unfamiliar with them.
Yeah.
I learned how to sew from my mother. And I may not be very practiced at it right now, but I could pick it up and start practicing and rebuild that perishable skill if I needed to.
Yeah.
I haven't canned in a long time, but I canned with my grandmother. I canned with my grandfather. I canned with my mother. I have canning supplies, and I'm not practicing it, but at least I understand how to do it.
But the proper motivation should get a guy there.
Or not even necessarily the proper motivation, but just should the necessity arise.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm confident.
That's what I'm talking about, really.
Yeah.
But think about the sheer number of people that you don't know who don't know any of that shit.
Oh,
right? Like that's the thing is let's say our grid goes down for 2 weeks. Just imagine just a 2-week grid down scenario in Saskatchewan. And we've got a lot of people who are very self-reliant, who are very much, on the preparedness side of the equation. And even in a place like Saskatchewan, think about how many people would die, kill others for food, get into it with you, you name it. Right.
Oh yes,
and
there's no shortage.
There are so many people with no skills, and they really don't realize how much. And I would argue, societally, where we're sitting right now, how close we are to the edge.
Yeah,
the stores already have less than what we're used to. The access to fuel is already, being diminished. We're getting there, and I think we're in a scenario where a lot of these sheep, well, guess what? You could have all the sheepdog in the world, but if there's 1 million sheep charging them, it ain't gonna stop, right?
And that's why you need friends.
That's right.
Yeah.
Dan
brings up
go ahead.
Is that where you're going?
It is. Go ahead.
So Dan says, and we've discussed this before several times.
We have.
Question for a reloader in shit hit the fan situation. Do you use a small caliber like 223-556 or get more per pound, or do you go 308 or 300 and get a positive kill on food with less ammo per pound? So again, dependent on Kris is holding up 308, it looks like.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't have 223.
Are you trekking a long way? Are you constantly mobile?
There are not very many. Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah. You're right. You have to be asking yourself that question for sure. Yeah.
Spud, your 22 long rifle, invalid.
Valid. You know what? I've got a couple of thousand rounds of 22 LR that I don't shoot. It's my Boog 22.
I know.
But I also have several thousand rounds of 223 and several thousand rounds of 308. Yeah. And I would say, I think those are my 3 calibers that I have a set aside that I don't shoot. Well, that's not true. I don't shoot for a long period of time, and then I will cycle 1,000 rounds out, and as I replace 1,000 rounds, sort of thing.
First in, first to use.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I would say I have about as much 22 long as I have 223, and I have about maybe 2/3 as much 308 as I have of the other 2.
Let me ask you guys, what about shotgun? What do you think of if you have various, you got slug, buck, bird, you now have 3 kinds of, of ammo for one rifle, plus likely if you've got a shotgun, you could have a very basic shotgun, because the more sophisticated the rifle in a SHTF event,
and the more specific,
right? Yeah. Something breaks, now whoop-de-doo, you've got this rifle that's now nothing but a paperweight. So what do you guys think?
It's an incredibly valid point, for sure. Yeah. You know what, my take on it is, I think it's terrain dependent, area dependent, but yes, you have some variations, some latitude with a shotgun, providing you have different ammunition. I mean, listen, my personal choice, I think, in most cases would be 223. And it'll go back to kind of what you were talking about earlier, Chris. Skills. You may not use them all the time, but you're damn well going to learn in the right situation, given the right motivation, right? Yeah. You're going to learn how to shoot. So
as long as you've done it in the past and you understand the theory, then you can redevelop the skill.
Right. So taking a larger animal with 223, you're probably going to make sure you get close and place a really good shot. Now, so with a shot, like you're not going to use a 223 for a partridge.
Yeah.
No.
you very well could, but you're eating slivers after that. If you do hit them. So a shotgun makes a hell of a lot of sense in that close quarters.
Also my invalid 22 long rifle.
Right.
She's like, I said fucking 12 gauge. You both actually bring up an interesting point, because I completely agree with you guys. Everything you said about shotgun is absolutely valid. But at least up to this, and it's stupid because I've got my Canuck 12 gauge pump.
Yeah.
It's extremely reliable. I've got a regulator defender. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's not on the list, is it?
It's not on the list, and I don't stockpile 12 gauge ammunition either.
Right.
And see, an
MOA scope. Doug JR is asking me if I've got. I have no scope on the 12 gauge, but I do have an MOA scope. Actually, I have an MOA scope on every gun except for the PRS rifle that I have right now. So yes, MOA.
Nice. Well placed. 22.
Chris isn't wrong, but the question is how many times out of 10 are you gonna have that well placed shot on a moose? You know?
Yeah.
No, and I think
that would be my concern.
I think I would say always, and the reason I lean on the shotgun especially is keep it simple, stupid. Right? Like if you've got a right or a weapon or a tool that is the most basic it can be, I would say go with that way. And then of course the vast majority, you guys, we all have multiple guns and we know exactly what we're going to take. And in each scenario, we've got more than enough ammo across the board. But I would say if somebody's like, okay, I've got one weapon, my argument would be shotgun. I would say, so if you,
I would have a hard time. Yeah, I'd have a hard time arguing, man.
Yeah. I'm just glad
three kinds of ammo, one gun.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that I'm glad that like the odds of ever having to choose only one gun are practically nothing.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
know, even know what's around the corner though, man.
But even absolutely, and I'm saying,
but even in a grid down,
too, right?
Sure, yeah, but even in a grid down bug out scenario, I can strap a 223 like with a Jesus Christ, a sling, and attach the backpack, the shotgun to the backpack. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right for sure.
You're gonna be the hard target while everybody else is the gray man.
Well, no, I would be the gray. Well, no, I would never be the gray man. I think the gray man.
Shit running down the street.
I think in the vast majority of scenarios, the gray man is fantasy.
Yeah, well,
I just don't see. Like, name a scenario realistically where being a gray man is valuable.
Well, what I find funny with the whole gray man thing is it's like, I'm gonna have my hood up. Yeah, okay, so you're gonna look like a Marvel character who's in hiding, like
kidding,
right? Of course, you're gonna look stupid. But I would argue that keeping the mindset to blend in is a good idea. You know,
it is.
I'm 6.5 feet tall.
I'm 300 pounds. I get it. Like, I don't fucking blend in.
His beard is the size of a fucking truck stop.
Yeah, exactly. But what I would say is, like, if you're in the group, like if the let's say there was a riot scenario, right? And the riot happens to be moving in this direction, then kind of scoot your way into that riot, and then like, I'm out. I'm just saying, like think about, like, I think that's part of that. I agree. Yeah, okay.
What you guys are doing?
Damn the man,
right? Yeah. So I'm just saying. I think it's one of those situations where it might not be the worst idea to at least think about how you blend in, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you guys do EDC or not, but like, if you work downtown, you know, and your EDC is a tack bag, well, that looks weird compared
Right.
to,
Yeah.
you know,
Next to a bunch of suits.
right? Exactly. You know,
A lot of people would consider my EDC pretty rookie.
what do you got for EDC?
Oh.
Yours might be bigger than mine.
Man, this is
I get that a lot.
the Gerber Crucial.
Yeah. This is a buck package knife.
Nice.
Just in case you have
But then,
to,
what I love with
cast
this one
yourself.
is that it's also the multi-tool.
Oh,
Yeah, I think carrying a multi-tool
Yes.
rather than just a knife is a valuable valuable thing for sure.
Well, even in my job, I use it like all the time. So
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I use this thing all the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's unobtrusive. And I'll be honest with you, if it comes down to a hand-to-hand scenario, I could kill a motherfucker if I need to.
that's true. You could.
But that's not why I carry it. I carry it for opening packages, if I'm being perfectly honest. But you know, my hands are lethal weapons, so
Right, yeah. I'm registered with the cops, man.
yeah, I registered my hands the other week, so
I can
just
fight
renewed it.
really hard. I can't fight worth a shit. I can't run.
No,
But beard like that, I bet you could take a hell of a punch.
Just a big pillow.
just yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
that's right. Fantastic.
Okay.
Chris says, I just got my Dairy Queen. How will skip the dishes work and shit hits the fan? in 2 words, it won't.
But see, now there's your in, Chris, right? You can now build your own skip the dishes in SHTF, and then there's your skill. You don't even need to prep.
That's how you will contribute to the rebuilding of society.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
Yes,
but you can shoot.
but I can shoot.
Yeah.
And this is true. If I drag my fat ass up to the top of a hill somewhere, I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you'll just be on watch all the time, just Overwatch, just
That's right.
all the
Oh,
time.
fucking deal. Leave me with a roll of Kubasa and some Ritz crackers. I'm there for days.
That's right.
No guarantee what you're going to smell like when you come back, but
That's
Doesn't matter.
secondary.
irrelevant. And that's the last thing that we haven't touched on yet. Penicillin.
Oh yeah,
Have some penicillin.
Yes.
I
this
think
is true.
so. My wife and I, we keep it in the house because I mean we're trying to be more practical and realistic about the fact that we're more likely to bug in. But we've kind of like got a bit of a double up on all of our typical things. We've got multiple tubes of polysporin. We got multiple packages of different types of bandages. We've got medical tape. We've got gauze. We've got and not like a 2020 toilet paper amount. But we have more than we are currently using. And then when a tube is gone, we bring out the next tube and then we'll replace it with another tube. And we just so that we always have a little more than we need in that regard.
Do you guys keep a list of your stockpile at home?
No, and we probably
Like for
should.
cycling?
We don't. We totally off the cuff it.
I use a pretty, I wouldn't say hard and fast rule, but it's a quarterly check, and basically every 3 months I go through all my preps and see what sorts of expiry dates there are, take those out, and then swap in the new stuff so that everything's no older than 3 months.
And let's just remind the folks out there that Oscar says he has a supply of electrical tape for bandaging, which is a great tool, especially for rednecks. It works especially well with rednecks.
It does work, yeah.
I just want to remind the folks out there that electrical tape can also be fun.
Wow.
I'll just let your imagination run wild.
Like for making your own GIMP suit or what?
And sorry, Chris, just for clarification, it's 3 months on the food. I always try to have like
on the food. I got you.
on the food aspect of it.
Okay.
Yeah. cordage and that shit'll last forever. But again, that's also, you got to check that stuff too, because like there's lots of stuff that people will throw into their bags. They let it sit there for 2 months or for 2 years or 3 years, and then it like
and then it's done for.
Yeah.
JR makes another good point here, and this is
does.
also something that we do the same thing with multivitamins that we do with our with the rest of our, call it pharmaceutical stuff. Because especially like most of our grocery shopping, we go to the superstore, so it's always buy in groups of 2 and get a special on it, anyways. So we just take advantage of that. Super glue, Chris Vazeka says 100%. Potassium iodide, Mark, you had mentioned that. You have a Life Straw and you have iodide tablets.
That's right. And one thing I wanted to mention on the waterfront, and this is something that I learned more recently in my prepper world, and I was like, oh my God, pool shock. It's $20. You go down to your Canadian Tire or wherever.
Pool shock?
It's called Pool Shock.
Oh.
And what it is so bleach only has a shelf life of 3 to 6 months. It's basically solid bleach, and you can mix it with a little bit of water and create bleach. Then you can use that bleach to purify more water.
So it's kind of like a stable chlorine.
It's stable
substance.
Chlorine, exactly. And
really?
For $20, you can buy a thing of Pool Shock that will purify. Are you sitting down? 10,000 liters of water.
Yep.
That's enough.
It doesn't take
water.
much for sure.
And that's enough water for a family to live for a long time.
But when you're drinking chlorinated water like that, especially heavily chlorinated water, correct me if I'm wrong, but I always thought that would dehydrate you more.
Well, you would have to be drinking pretty heavily.
Would you?
And you would. And the big thing is what you do is when you purify the water, there's two things you can do. Is one, if you build a solar still, you purify the water with some bleach, and then you can solar still it, and then it'll help with that. Second thing is if you don't have that kind of time, is that once you purify the water, leave it out. If you can leave it out overnight, all that chlorine off gases, and the water is as good as new, and you won't even taste it. And essentially, if you there you go, the chlorine will gas off, and then essentially the water, it will be as good as anything you could drink.
So you just leave it to sit for a bit, and you're good to go.
And it'll if you really need to, just drink it there, it's. You have taken a lot of goddamn chlorine, and you probably puke before you ever took it enough to actually cause you to really be messed up. So, and if you're really worried, you can buy. So when you go to buy your Pool Shock, you buy that, and then you go right beside it is test strips for swimming pools,
litmus strips,
and buy those, and then you can test the water and see what the chlorine content is. But generally speaking, I'm not going to give any instructions right now, but there's a whole whack of videos and ways of how to use your Pool Shock properly and what the mixes should be. Pool Shock, and for $20, you're going to do 10,000 liters. That's a no-brainer in my mind.
Yeah, for sure.
Two things though. This is something very important with it. Is break it in, take it out of its container once you get it, and put it into glass. Because if you leave it in plastic, the plastic will break down. No problem, JR. The plastic will break down, and you'll end up with Pool Shock all the fuck everywhere.
For sure.
And do not.
It'll dry out the plastic. You mean?
Yeah, and do not put your Pool Shock in with any of your regular preps. Keep it just as a separate.
That makes sense.
One
last thing. I know we're going a little bit long on time here. One last thing. I have like thousands upon thousands of these things. And no, these are not English mints. They're pressed and dried towels.
Yep.
Just those little cotton towels. You just put a little drop of water on them and reconstitute.
Where the hell do you get them?
Dude, Wish, Amazon, pick one. Yeah, and they come in you can buy little packages of 1,000 of them for $10-12.
No kidding.
Yeah. Or maybe even less than that. Yeah.
Well, wonders never cease.
Yeah, you just put a little they're just hard pressed, and they're hard. You guys can hear my dog barking, can't you?
Yeah.
Fucking dog. But they're literally like a hard little tablet. But you put literally just a couple of drops of water on them, and they just like expand like those little dinosaurs used to when we were kids, and then you just unroll it and you use it like a regular cotton towel.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Awesome. And it'll wipe your ass too.
Yeah, and that's primarily why I have them, for backpacking and needing to shit in the woods.
I'm just gonna put this little tablet in my ass crack.
Why is this not working? I put 7 up there and it's still
I'm sure
not
it'll
working.
expand soon.
So I'm just going to be honest and say what I'm talking about is I can reconstitute it with a little bit of my drinking water. Then I can wipe my ass like a regular human being.
Oh.
Anyway,
maybe you pop it and it'll come out. With,
you just swallow it and it just cleans you out. Yeah. So Spudman says bleach won't help if the water is glowing green. Time to drink your pee.
At least he's not mentioning the internal bubble level lately.
Yeah, well, Spud might have a bit of an obsession with urine.
No,
I'm sure it's healthy.
Yeah. Oh, great. Now JR thinks that my reconstituted towels is an old prison trick. Baby wipes. Actually, Dan, yes. But here's the interesting thing about baby wipes. I don't keep baby wipes in the house for emergency preparedness. I keep baby wipes in my hunting kit and in my camping kit. And so they're still available for me if I ever have an emergency, because I actually have a 2 different places where I keep them, but I don't keep them for emergency preparedness, but I would still have them available if I needed them.
Another thing about baby wipes, if they're dry, just put a little bit of water and they'll work just as good.
Yeah.
Reconstituted baby wipes.
Reconstituted baby wipes.
Well, I think we covered a pretty good. Well, I had a question. What we had the topic here to talk about. It was called "What's in Your Wallet." What did that mean?
Oh, I don't know. Just kind of what I had in my mind was just asking folks, what their preferred items were or whatever. But
I got you.
I think we got enough interaction that we get an idea of what other people out there are doing, or good ideas and all that kind of stuff.
For sure.
I think it was a good show, you guys.
Yeah, I think that went pretty well.
Yeah.
I'd like to, this is a good time to let all our listeners know. You can check out the show on Facebook at facebook.com/BS podcast. Please leave a review for us and let us know how we're doing. If you like the content, you can leave a like on our page and share so that we can spread the wealth. You can email questions to us or comments or reviews or whatever you want to email us about. It's info@bspodcast.ca. We do have the website up now. It is bspodcast.ca, as I'm sure you could imagine based on our email. And you can get our past episodes. We've got blog stuff up there. We got review stuff up there. Don't forget you can follow us on YouTube. I know a lot of us are watching us on YouTube right now. I know our YouTube currently has not been switched over. I don't know if any of you guys have ever tried to switch over YouTube, but like it is a butt puckering situation because YouTube tells you that none of your subscribers, none of your content, none of anything will switch over. And then there are multiple YouTube videos saying that, yeah, just go ahead and do it. It'll switch it all over. See, here's the proof. And I'm like, oh man. So I've been procrastinating doing it, as though like if I put it off, somehow when I finally go to do it, it won't erase any of our content. But I think I'll get it done this coming week. And hopefully it won't erase our content because that'll really suck. But for right now, it still says First Focal Plane podcast. It will say Ballistically Speaking podcast very, very quickly. And yeah, there we go. I don't know what's up with my dogs. Like somebody must be trying to break into the house.
The zombies are coming.
Like
lucky you.
Jumping. Jesus, they're back.
All right, just to close things out here, again, thank you to our sponsors, Shane and Steve at Precision Rifles, Miles, Carey, and Cappy with call sign 66, Duncan and Rob at Bolt Action Coffee, Phil Odell at Odell Engineering, Doug and Niza with March Scopes Canada, Vanya and Carly with Apex Optics, and Oscar with Ribstone Gunsmithing. Thank you so much, you guys. Without your help, this would be dull.
If you're still watching us, Exactly. If you're still watching us, make sure you put a like on the Facebooks or on the YouTubes or whatever you're watching us on, because it helps feed the algorithm. And we got a lot coming up over the next little while. We've got some guests that we're working on, but we've also got a lot of really good content coming up for you guys, and a lot of really cool initiatives that we're going to be busting out over the next little while too. So hopefully you guys are enjoying the show and the bit of a change in the format, and you're enjoying the wild ride, and we'll continue to.
We'll go skidding down that road together.
Exactly. Dan says make a new channel and direct us there live. We're hoping, Dan, that we can keep all of our content. That's the big thing. Like, we've got a lot of especially like reviews and stuff that have gotten good noticeability, and we'd like to be able to keep them up. And our old episodes, we people keep circling back to them and stuff like that, and we'd like to do that. And yes, Nathan, we will have more rifle draws coming up. We're just trying to get everything else all settled and organized, but we have a shotgun actually that will be giving away in one shape or another in the next couple of months for sure.
You bet. All right.
I guess that's it. I should get ready to press the button. Hey.
Yeah. Where are we?
I think we're ready to go.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Let's do
Thanks,
that.
folks.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you all next week.
Bye.
This right here has the ability with a 30 caliber clip to disperse with 30 bullets within half a second.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber.
You're listening to your weekly dose of BS, ballistically speaking.